something like this. Right? You've all seen that. Okay, that's the get. A post sends that data as part of the request for this form processor page. That then when it processes the data and then redirects to the success page. Okay, so that this is an example of how an HTTP post works. Now, the way that the HTTP post works in the campaign builder is very similar, but it's a little bit different. What the HTTP post does is it sends that data behind the scenes without without the end user or the person filling out the form seeing that happen. So, for example, a really great example is this mastermind webinar. Okay, when you fill out this form, what it does, part of the sequence on this form is that it sends an HTTP post containing the contact details of the person that just filled out the form to a custom script that goes and registers someone for the mastermind calls with GoToMeeting. So when that happens, it goes to the script that I wrote that then takes that data, processes it, and sends it on to GoToMeeting to register you for the call. So that's a really great example of that. Now, another example would be if you're using Customer Hub. When somebody buys something or when somebody signs up for the Success Club that Infusionsoft has, which, by the way, if you guys haven't signed up for that, I recommend that you do that. If you go to infusionsoft.com/success club, you can go and sign up for it. It's a ton of great content about how to use Infusionsoft sorry, it's the conceptual how to build the life cycle marketing in your business. So just go sign up for it, and you can get access to it. But we use Customer Hub to manage all of this. And so what happens is when somebody fills out this form, it sends an HTTP post to Customer Hub to create their Customer Hub account. And so that's another really powerful use of the HTTP post. So previous to this release, the HTTP post wasn't part of the campaign builder. So I'm going to show you how to get that set up. So what we do is when somebody fills out the form or when somebody completes a goal, however they complete a goal, I'm going to start this sequence, and I can do all of my normal things, apply tags, send an email, all of that. But now I have this option down here of sending an HTTP post. So what I can do is before I send the email, I want to send a post to Customer Hub to go and create their account, or I want to send a post to the script that registers somebody for GoToWebinar. The way that this works, it's actually pretty simple. What we do is we put in the URL of where that post needs to get sent, right? Something like that. Doesn't always have to be PHP. It could be a JSP page. It could be a .NET page. There's lots of different options there. But what we do then is we say, okay, here's the place that the post needs to get sent to. Now, let's go and choose and tell Infusionsoft which data needs to get sent. So the way that the data gets sent is it's sent as variables. Okay, and the variables have two properties. A variable has a name and it has a value. So this is the name and this is the value. So right now, if I didn't change anything else, this post would send a variable with the name of contact ID and a value of the contact ID of the person that just filled out the web form to this script that's on this page. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now, right now, all that I'm sending is the contact ID, but what happens if I wanted to send the first name? Well, I can say first name, and then I put in here, and I want to merge in the person's first name. Now, what this lets you do that's different than the way the post worked in the past, the way that the post worked in the past is that some contact details came across, but it always came across as the name of the variable was fixed. You couldn't change it. You couldn't adjust it. You weren't able to control which data was being sent. This new way, with the new feature in the campaign builder, you now have the ability to put in whatever data you want in the post. So, for example, I've got first name there. What if I wanted to do last name like this, or like this, or like that? There's lots of different options that you can do with the variable name, but then you'll notice I can send any of this data that's a merge field for example, we can use all of these merge fields in our emails as well. So there's a lot more power here with the ability to do an HTTP post. And so what happens then is, as part of this sequence, they fill out the form, the sequence starts, it applies the tags, it sends the post, and then it sends the email. Now, we can also do things like add in a delay and send another post later if we wanted to do that. There's lots of different options that we can do there with that HTTP post option. So hopefully that made sense, and that you're with me on how that works. Now, what I want to do is show you. I showed you that. I'm going to show you my ninja trick. Okay, and I can't take credit for the idea, but I can take credit for figuring out how to make it work. This was actually a question that was asked when I did the customer webinar earlier this week. Somebody said, is there a way to send a post to register somebody for GoToWebinar without having to use a script? And so I went and figured out how to do that. And so that's what I'm going to show you, is a scriptless way to register someone for GoToWebinar. Like I mentioned before, it uses the HTTP post. And basically all that it's doing is it's sending the HTTP post to GoToMeetings or GoToWebinar's form processor. So I'm gonna geek out just a little bit here and show you how this works. Let's see. Well, I'm going to need to log in real quick to GoToMeeting, and I'm going to show you how this works. So what I did was I just went and set up just a standard meeting, okay? And this is the normal GoToMeeting registration page, okay? So the way that this works, the way that this form works is this form, like I showed you before with my GoToMeeting or my mastermind registration form. This form has, let me, real quick here. Okay, this form, this is the code to tell the web browser, when you submit the form, do it as a post and send it to this URL right here. Okay, so what we do then when we're building this post to go from Infusionsoft to GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar is we go in, and I've actually already set this up, and we send the post to that same URL. We're sending it to www.1.gotomeeting.com, right? It's the same URL that we saw right here as the action, okay? Then what we need to do is identify all of the different things that are being sent to GoToMeeting. So the first thing is all of these different hidden fields that are being sent need to be there as well. So if we come back here, we have a name called template, and then I put in the value. So remember, a variable that has a name of template and a value of this, right? And the place that I got this from was right here. I have an input with the value of this and a name of template. Okay, same thing here. I have a name of form and a value of webinar registration form. I have a name of webinar key and a value of the webinar key. So all of those things need to be there. The other input fields are the name, right? So I need it to be this name underscore first, and then I need to merge in the value for their first name, their last name, and their email. So once I have all of those things, I can then go and register someone for the webinar, right? When they fill out the form, right, that says I want to register for the webinar, that's this one here. Let's rename this. Okay. When they register for the webinar, they fill out this form. That form then starts this sequence that sends an HTTP post with all of this data to GoToWebinar and registers them for the call. So let's go through, and I've actually I've already published this, but let me publish this again, and we're going to go and test it. I'm going to edit this and get the URL here. Posted version. All right, so I'm going to just fill this out. Okay, so I want to go back into GoToMeeting real quick here, and I'll show you how many I've got. A couple people registered for this already, but I want to show you that Jordan Hatch@hotmail.com is not registered for this call yet. Okay, so there's 3 people registered for the call. Okay, and so I'm going to fill this form out and I'm going to submit it, and you'll see the success page, right? Blah blah blah. Nothing, if Jason was the one filling out this form, he wouldn't have seen anything on the back end. But you can see here that Jason is now registered for the for this webinar, and I didn't have to do a script or any fancy coding or anything like that. I just used that new feature of being able to send an HTTP post as part of the campaign builder. So that's a really quick, powerful way to do that. Now, let me show you this, and I'll show you this screen again, and you can come back and watch the recording of this call, and you can see this. So I'll leave this up for a second. Just when you get to this part, pause it, and I'll show you everything that stays the same and everything that changes. So these first 2 stay the same. The name and the value. Name and value stays the same. The names, all of the names all stay the same. The value, this is what changes. This is where you put your webinar ID. So for example, the mastermind webinar ID has a different webinar. I'll show you our different webinar ID. And the way that you get that is it's this number right here at the end, the 630-932-393. That's the webinar ID for the mastermind calls. Okay, so you would put the value there. This stays the same, view archived webinar, and then your registrant time zone key, I always just leave this as 67. It can change if you want it to, but it doesn't need to. But once you have all of those things in there, and then again, you're merging in name underscore first, name underscore last, email, and then you merge in the values. That's all that you need to do. This URL always stays the same as well. So again, when you come back and watch the recording, you can see that, and that's exactly how you go and set this up. So that is it for everything I wanted to talk to you about as far as the new features go. Hopefully there are some interesting use cases that came up and that you got some ideas. We need your help in making Infusionsoft better. So the first thing that you can do to do